Hello, welcome back. I'm Byron. This is Sidmir's Civilization Conquest, Civilization 3 Conquest. We're continuing the Persian Campaign in the Rise of Rome scenario. We are getting our ass handed to us by Macedon, and Egypt is coming the other direction. And I think we've made peace with Scythia, so our north is okay. And something's got to give for us to be able to win this game. Alright, so today in the news, Trump in Saudi on his first foreign trip. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's grammatically correct to say in Saudi. I think you have to say in Saudi Arabia. If you're going to shorten it, I think you would call it Arabia. Oh, Rouhani won the Iranian election. That's, I think most people agree that's a good thing. They make good products, just going to be able to trade with them. Throwing down a challenge to the conservative clergy that still holds ultimate sway. First Rouhani as the architect of Iran's still fragile détente with the West, not the rest. Let's see, current 259. They're 20 points down. They have more population, and Rome has more area. This science slider is annoying. When I used to play as a kid, I had it on the easiest level, and you can just set it to 100 and forget about it. But on the harder levels, it kills your units if you go below 0. So you have to keep track of the science. Rossi was a protege of Khomeini. Rossi was the guy who opposed Rouhani and the Ayatollah. 77. Who chooses the Ayatollah? I don't know. Let's hope. Rouhani, 37-year-old, says he supports Rouhani. That seems about right. Younger people seem to like him. So this is the same. First servant, Muhammad Khatami. Never heard of him. Apparently he's one of Rouhani's predecessors. I don't know if he was right before Ahmadinejad, or even further before. It doesn't say, I don't think it says who gave this quote here. I guess it's Karim Sajidpour who's in the previous paragraph, but he says democracy in Iran is allowed to bloom only a few days every 4 years, while autocracy is evergreen. Because the president doesn't have much power, it's mostly vested in the Ayatollah. But it's pretty good. But again, who picks the Ayatollah? I think ultimately, deep down, the person who picked the Ayatollah is chosen slowly but democratically, I think. I don't see how it would work otherwise. It's not hereditary, I don't think. Unless the Ayatollah appoints his own successor. The Saudis are Iran's biggest enemies, which is where Trump is now. I don't think he's going to Iran. Oh, I'd like to be better friends with Iran than Saudi Arabia, if that's possible. It's not possible right now. Those who cut out tongues and sewed mouths shut. He accused Raisi, his opponent, of abusing religion for power. Apparently, Khomeini did not like that. Yeah, so after Macron and Rouhani, the conservative swing seems to be stopping. What's the next election? Could it be Japan? Although Theresa May wants another election, which undoing Cameron's reforms. It used to be in Britain. They just did elections whenever the Prime Minister felt like it, or whenever the Parliament felt like it. Cameron decided to have regular elections every 5 years, but it looks like May is going off of that. Raisi promised more welfare benefits and jobs. Comey is going to testify to the Senate panel in a public session. I listen to a lot of these Senate hearings at work and debates and stuff. Approval of the president drops to lowest since inauguration. No surprise there. Trump looks increasingly isolated. There's just a picture of him standing on the lawn alone. They have pictures. Whenever they talk about the president being lonely, there's always a picture of him standing alone. You can get a picture of anyone standing alone at some point. North Korea says U.S. has to roll back hostile policy before talks. Well, that looks interesting. North Korea, hostile policy. As everybody knows, the Americans have gestured towards dialogue. What's important is not words but actions. I don't know if they're being specific about these, quote, hostile policies. Program is necessary to counter U.S. aggression. Donald Trump said a major conflict was possible. He's willing to meet with Kim Jong-un. I wonder when the last time that happened was. When the president met with a North Korea leader. North Korea submitted a patent application for cyanide. That was a bit confusing, I didn't read it out loud. But they're trying to patent a process for making cyanide. And it says, North Korea submitted a patent application to the UN agency, the World Intellectual Property Organization, for processing. The agency does not grant patents. Yeah, I don't get how a country can file a patent. Iranian-directed convoy targeted by U.S. strike in Syria. United States on Friday. I believe forces were Iranian directed with possible sign of increased tension between Washington and Tehran in the Syrian war. The strike was defensive in nature. I didn't know Assad had the backing of Iran as well as Russia. I guess that makes sense. The United States determined that the convoy posed a threat by offensive movement with offensive capability of what we believe were Iranian directed. I don't know there are Iranians on the ground, but Iranian directed forces. The strategic Damascus-Baghdad highway, which was once a major weapons supply route for Iranian weapons. Mattis said he believed the Iranian-directed forces moved into the zone against the advice of Russia, but that was unable to confirm that with certainty. You can see it on this map here, where that road is, probably. Maybe not. Right there. Antioch is about where Syria is. And it would go... be that road coming west, down to Karhay. Probably got bombed close to where that horse is standing, next to Antioch. Probably where oh, it took the city. Alright, we're turning them back. citizen management in this one, it's both harder and easier than in the later games. It's sort of interesting. The only one you want really is entertainers. Nothing else is better than the just working a tile. And the only reason entertainers are better is because they keep from disorder, and when there's disorder, there's no tiles. You don't want to have any more entertainers than exactly what you need. The We Love the King Day is not worth it. And I'm not even sure it helps, because I think entertainers just make a content citizen out of an unhappy citizen, instead of a happy citizen out of a content citizen. That's something that was lost. It changed from just happiness and unhappiness. It changed to just happiness and unhappiness. If your happiness outweighed your unhappiness, then that was what mattered. It's an interesting change. It might be cool to go back to that with the idea of a content citizen. I don't know. Massacre that the U.S. aggressor committed yesterday in our country. This is the subject we discussed. Yeah, it does point out that the strike had really nothing to do with the Islamic State, which Trump said was going to be his main focus, but he is attacking Assad here. This is clearly an attack on Assad, and has to be having nothing to do with ISIS. This is interesting word, de-conflict. But my sense is that the Russians aren't as enthusiastic as we are to de-conflict operations and ensure that we can continue to take the campaign to ISIS and ensure the safety of our personnel, he said, using an acronym for Islamic State. Yeah. So I guess what he's saying is he wants a peaceful revolution between the U.S.-backed rebels and Assad's government so that they can all focus on fighting ISIS. And honestly, I think that this is a bit controversial, but I think Assad is probably worse than ISIS. State terror is worse than random organizational terror like ISIS or Al-Qaeda. I'd much rather have them around than people who are actually in charge of a country who are committing terrorist acts. So I was just looking at here. It changes game, but I think it's only Civ 4 where you can't see the map changes on the map. You have to actually send a unit there to look at it and see. But I think in this one, as soon as the city changes, you'll see it on the map. Because in Civ 4, what would happen is there would be someone would settle a city, or someone would take a city, and you wouldn't see it. But once you would go there, you would see like the colors changing as your unit approached. And it'd lead to some very, like when I first played it, there were some weird scenarios where I'd see just a big rectangle of like Russia, uh playing chess on my phone right now, so I'm distracted. I probably shouldn't do that while I'm doing this, but it's fun. But you'd see like a big map of Russia on but you wouldn't see a city, and it'd be very weird. I wouldn't quite understand it. And I think what I thought was it was a colony, because in this game you have colonies. They're not cities. A worker just sets a colony down on a resource, and you get that resource without extending your borders over it. Which is cool. I was sad to lose that. Maduro to Trump, get your dirty hands off Venezuela. So, that's one world leader I didn't know. I now know. Nicolas Maduro is the president of Venezuela. Caracas. After U.S. sanctions against Venezuela. This is sort of ironic. Enough meddling, go home, Donald Trump, get out of Venezuela. Like, that's actually sort of what sanctions are. Is you're leaving the country. You can't. You're just limiting trade, so you're interacting with them less. Trump expressed dismay at how once booming Venezuela was now mired in poverty, saying it's been unbelievably poorly run and calling the humanitarian situation a disgrace to humanity. So there's one briefing he read. People talk about how he doesn't read the briefings. He apparently read the one on Venezuela, which is one you'd probably skip if you were going to skip some. So I'm not sure about all those stories coming out of the White House, whether they're true or not. I'd like to take them all with a grain of salt. Statement also accused Washington of financing Venezuelan opposition while ignoring problems at home like income inequality and rights violations. Well, I guess that's true. Although the problems in Venezuela are worse than the problems here. Alright, time is up. Bye. See you later.